I'm actually going to start off with Mac Miller's albums ranked in order before I jump into kids, of my personal preference, right? So every Mac album is amazing, and in fact, I usually really like whichever one I'm listening to the most at that moment, except for a couple, right? But, and honestly, I just switched my top three right as I started this video. So before I started the video, it went swimming, circles, faces. And right now it goes faces, circles, swimming. And honestly, it's hard to put them there because if circles and swimming were one album, because they're kind of a double album concept, and so is faces, if they were one album release, then they would be my number one. And we're going to dissect Faces. It is a double album. And that's one of the reasons I realized it was a double album just this week as it came out. And that bumped it up to number one for me. So Faces was just released. It was Mac Miller's like 14th mixtape or something. I don't even know. I'm going to figure it out before I jump into facts. But he produced almost the entire thing himself under the title Larry Fisherman. This doesn't really matter too much to the music, but it has the best album cover by far. It's extremely abstract. If you follow Dissect podcast, they just did like a little TikTok video on it, and it looks like something. If it's upside down, it looks like him at the sanctuary. If you look at it sideways, it looks like Larry Fisherman on the boat, right? Because Larry Fishman's his producer tag, and then if you look at it right side up, it looks like the picture of him with his eye and his hand covering his eye, right? So I might go into that a little bit more when I do the Faces season, but that's honestly it adds to like the infamousy of the project. And then I'm really excited to get into this theory, and I just came up with it recently, which is another reason it's fun to do this, like as I'm realizing things about Faces, because I can finally just listen to it a stupid amount of times. Faces is definitely a double project. The song Funeral is halfway through it, and I think there is a life and a death portion to it. Okay, so I'm not going to go too much more into that theory, but I'm pretty sure the first half is life, the second half is death, and that Circles and Swimming, if you put them together, they're probably the same runtime, and it's probably like that's probably a fair comparison, and they probably are better together than Faces. But if I have to rank them separately, Faces is definitely better. It's literally two albums just disguised as one. And honestly, you'll see there's like mini projects within Faces. Happy Birthday, Wedding, Funeral are like a mini 3 EP, and I have a suspicion that we might see some more mini like moments within Faces. I definitely like split up into two halves, but for all I know, it could be like 6 mini projects in there or like 4 quarters or something. But you know, I think it doesn't have like a real shape to it, but you can see that trilogy shape, and that kind of like hints that there's more going on here with the track list and kind of like the way this is set up. It might be just a bunch of mini projects, you know, kind of playing the different faces, right? I think that's the concept of it. But yeah, I mean, this is some of Mac's best rapping. The only time that you could say he went harder is Good AM, but it's some of his best rapping. He has a really slowed down psychedelic flow to him. He's going over a lot of jazz music, and he's really loose with it, you know? He's just kind of on drugs and just instead of internalizing his thoughts, he's kind of externalizing it. You know, he's kind of going through his thoughts out loud. It feels like the whole album was, you know, a freestyle. I assume he just freestyled nonstop, made music nonstop. We'll talk about it more, but he kind of just locked himself away in a room for a year and a half, or at least a year, and just went to town on this project and isolated himself and just produced it all, and it just all came from him, and it was just this monster of a mixtape. My favorite song right now, if you look, is Diablo. But I also really like Therapy. Let's see, I also really like the new Bonus and Insomniac, and I like every song, but that's why Faces is my favorite project, and I think it's the best mixtape of all time. Come on. And then Circles is number 2, just because Faces is his best rapping. I think Circles is his best singing, and honestly, it's one of his only albums that only has singing on it. There's also The Divine Feminine, which has a lot of singing, but he still raps, and then there is You, which is an EP he made under an alias called Larry Lovestein. It has only swimming, so I mean only singing. So Circles is not the only time, but this is when he definitely mastered it. And I don't know if it's because of his death, but the critics always said he had a terrible singing voice. So like Fantano, he dissed Swimming and The Divine Feminine for Mac's quote unquote shitty singing when they released. And then it could be because Mac was dead and he got emotional, but he loved the singing on Circles. And I think it's part to do with that, but I also think that Mac finally figured it out and he kind of corrected it. And, you know, you could say, wow, he was going to go on and sing more, but there's something really magical, I think, about the moment you really figure something out, too. So I think he would have gone on to, you know, make great singing songs in the future, but I think it's just amazing that he finally got to that point and he finally got this out and we finally got it. It's just a miracle album that he didn't die like 3 months earlier. I think all these songs really figured themselves out right at the end and afterwards, like John Bryan put them together. So it also, like, when he died and there was just Swimming, it kind of felt incomplete and there was like no resolution. You know, if you're now getting into Mac, you get that resolution right there, but we had to wait like a year and a half, and it really, like, I couldn't listen to him a lot during that time period because it felt like he died too soon. And then when Circle, I mean, because he purposely made a double album, it was like even that album was incomplete, right? But then when Circles was released, it was all the resolution of Swimming. It was its other half, right? And so, I mean, we didn't know we were going to get it. It's just so special and impactful, and it's so good. It's just so good, too. You know, the lyrics are phenomenal, and every song is just crafted so well. But yeah, I that has a special place in my heart, and I think everybody's heart, because I think it also pulled people in who weren't Mac fans, you know, and it's like, whoa, who is this guy and how did he get here? And then boom, you find out you have like so many other projects to find his evolution. So I do feel like he was going to go back to rapping after Circles. I think there was going to be a third project called Oblivion, and I think we might see some songs someday that were supposed to be on it, but I think it was less finished than Circles, and therefore I don't know if we're going to get that, you know? We might just get a little, like, couple singles or, like, you know, songs that were going to be on it, because he was definitely working on another rap album. But the fact is he was going to go back to rap, which is great, but that means that Circles was this peak moment of his singing, you know? And it's just a really special moment, you know, even if he continued to live. That album was going to be infamous. Swimming obviously is the album he released right before he died. This album just sounds like water. He like has so much water imagery in it, and plane imagery and swimming imagery. It's like, it's a breakup album, sure, but it's so much more than that. It's got its own life, you know, and it just flows like water, and I'll get into that more when we talk about it. But it's a great companion to Circles, and I mean, I think he's kind of mastering that sad, funky jazz vibe he's going for. People who are Mac Miller fans usually like the songs with just Mac Miller, right? Which is why Circles and Swimming are so high. They don't have any features, which is great for us who like to hear more Mac, you know? And so, just a masterpiece. Watching movies with the sound off, this one is really special to me because I have listened to this album while a movie actually plays with the sound off like 400 times. It's one of my favorite things to do. One of my favorite movies is Princess Bride. So put the Princess Bride on, put watching movies with the sound off on, and turn the audio for Princess Bride off. You can do this with any movie, and especially one that you really, really like, know all the words to, because say if you know all the words to it, you don't need to listen to it, so then you have both playing at the same time, and it's just the trippiest thing ever. So I think anyone who is sleeping on this isn't realizing like that's the way Mac intended it to be experienced. I don't know why he did it that way, but all of his bars in this whole thing are for some reason they're so abstract that they can cling on to any story. They can attach themselves to any visual you put to them. So when you put a movie to them, movies, I don't know, they just have this natural progression of things, and when you put this album on, it just like it doesn't fit perfectly to every movie, but it's never a bad time. It's always a good time. So it's just so interesting. It's just like his words will just pop out once you do that. So if you have not done that, that is a treat. Okay, I would almost always do that. Like that's the point of this shit. That's how I interpret it. And so this has some cool like high bird themes. This is when he really went underground and started working with like Action Bronson, Tyler the Creator, Earl Sweatshirt, just all these like underground artists that he didn't have to like go work with. He kind of had enough fame at that time where he could have clinged on to like the Lil Waynes and the Drakes, and the J. Coles, and he didn't really like cling his way up to people, right? He kind of helped others up. I mean, he talks about that on Faces. I did it all without a Drake feature, right? But this is the album where he's really doing that. This is the album where he's really showing like, no, I'm the kind of guy to bring people with me, not the kind of guy to like cling on to someone else's skills, ability, or career, right? And it's really just good experimental hip hop that, I mean, it's an amazing album. Good AM. I have a little break here because those four are in another tier to me. Good AM is great. I'm just going to go through my list now because I'm going to talk about all these projects in time, but I just wanted to cover my top four pretty strongly. Good AM is number 5. I love it because this is a sobering moment for Mac. He's not off of the drugs, but he is thinking very clearly, and it's right after Faces, and this is when he moves forward and starts building his own label. He signs with Warner Brothers under his own, but it's his label, Remember Music. It was a $10 million deal, and he had just been completely independent and made the best mixtape he could possibly make all on his own, with underground, no budget, just himself and guitars and tools, and he mastered that style of art. And Faces was like this grand masterpiece, and then it was like, all right, what the fuck can I do with a budget and some actual like money, And so Good AM is when he gets his deal, and he goes so fucking hard on this album. I said I wouldn't talk about it, but I guess I'm going to. He goes so fucking hard on Good AM, and it's the best morning album. You just wake up and put it on. Like, Faces is the best late night, like, I haven't slept in a while album, and Good AM is such a good morning album. Brush your teeth to it, take a shower to it, go on that early morning run to it, walk your dog to it, bro. It's so relatable. It's like the 9 to 5 hustle. I don't know, man. So good. Now, Macadelic is number 6. It comes right after Blue Slide Park. This is when Mac starts experimenting with psychedelics, obviously, and he starts really pondering life and death at this moment. It's a really interesting transition from Blue Slide Park. The Divine Feminine is a beautiful masterpiece, and people say it's about Ariana Grande, but Mac actually believed that God was a woman. That's really did come from him. I'll find the quote at some point. And he had this but he had this kind of whole philosophy, and in a way he kind of worshipped the female archetype. And he swore that this is about, his relationship with all women in life, or like a divine encompassing woman entity almost, So he definitely tapped into some feelings with Ariana, but this album is so much more than just a love album or an album or any, it's bigger than that. He really creates an entire universe here and does a great job mixing in instruments for some of the first time. Obviously he did that on Good AM, but he really starts mixing in like trumpets and just like all these interesting sounds because he has such a good budget at this point. Beautiful album, one of the best love albums, I think, because I think it also is the way he loves life. Um, and then Best Day Ever is the project about him loving life. Um, I'm just gonna start skipping over soon because we're gonna get into those soon. It goes Best Day Ever, number 8, Kids number 9. There's a little break. Blue Slide Park is number 10. Delusional Thomas, which is a mixtape he made under the alias name Delusional Thomas, is number 11. You is number 12, which is a like love jazz album he made around the same time as Macadelic. And then I put Live from Space last, but I don't really like any of the songs too much on there that were new. It was half live, half new. I don't really like those new songs as much. So there's also like maybe I Love Life, Thank You, I would put on that list. And then The High Life, but they aren't on Spotify, so we're not going to touch those. Neither is Delusional Thomas, but I just love that. I love that project. That's his darkest moment, by the way, if you haven't heard it. Faces is not his darkest moment. So yeah, those are my top 10 albums. No, I guess it's 13. But those are my Mac Miller projects ranked in order. Faces, Circles, Swimming. I've been listening to him a lot lately, and I've thought about this a lot. So we'll see if my preference changes. I think the once I realize Faces is a double album, I think those top 3 are locked in like that. It's possible Swimming I could think is better than Circles, but we could see some shift up in the middle. Like I could easily see Good AM or Macadelic. I could either see like Good AM and Watching Movies could be changed out. It'll be hard to shift those around. But anyways, we'll see if anything changes. I would be surprised though on the album level.